Kevin Stefanski insists Shedeur Sanders isn't healthy enough to play, but that claim is crumbling under the weight of visible evidence. Sanders has been seen throwing full speed in warm-ups, moving without restriction and showing every sign of physical readiness. The back injury narrative feels increasingly like a pretext, a strategic smokescreen to justify keeping him off the field. It's not just questionable, it's insulting to fans and players who see through the excuse. And now that Tom Brady has openly criticized this approach, the conversation has shifted from strategy to sabotage. Cleveland isn't dealing with a quarterback dilemma, it's dealing with a credibility crisis. Sanders, a first-round talent with elite intangibles and proven production, is being shelved not because he's unready, but because playing him would force the coaching staff to admit they were wrong.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Brady's frustration points to a deeper rot, one where pride overrides logic, and opportunity is withheld to maintain a fragile illusion of control. If the Browns continue to protect egos over potential, they're not just risking a few losses, they're setting fire to their future. Tom Brady didn't just weigh in on the Browns' quarterback situation, he detonated it. When the face of football excellence decides to step into someone else's franchise drama, it's never casual. It's never for attention. Just because something smells off. And Brady made it crystal clear. What's going on in Cleveland right now isn't just a poor decision. It's a symptom of a deeper, more corrosive issue inside that organization. We're talking about a coaching philosophy built on control, not competition. A franchise too scared to admit it's wrong, even if it means stalling the development of the most talented quarterback they've had in years. And at the center of it all is Kevin Stefanski, who, instead of seizing an obvious opportunity to ignite a lifeless offense, chose to hide behind a weak excuse and a tighter-than-ever grip on power. This all came to a head because of one player, Shedeur Sanders. Let's not play dumb here. Shedeur is ready. He has the arm. He has the decision-making. He has the composure. And he has the resume to back it up. He's not some raw, unpolished project. He's a gamer. A pressure-tested competitor who spent his entire college career proving he can handle big moments. But instead of giving him the chance to prove it in the NFL, the Browns sidelined him. Claimed it was a back injury. Kept him out of the lineup while fans, analysts, and even his own teammates watched him launch deep balls in warm-ups like he was prepping for a pro day. There's no mystery here. There's no nuance. This is a coaching staff that's lying to protect itself. Brady saw it. He didn't dance around it. He straight up called Stefanski out for robbing a talented young quarterback of the opportunity to grow. And when Tom Brady, says that a guy needs real-time game reps to develop, you listen. The man didn't rise from a 6th-round pick to 7 rings by sitting on the bench and waiting for someone to validate him. He got his shot, earned it, and never looked back. That's what Sanders deserves. But instead, he's being kept off the field by a head coach who's more interested in protecting his legacy than protecting the future of the franchise. And let's not pretend this is just about Sanders. It's about what his benching represents. When you bury a player who's clearly ready to contribute, it sends a message to the team, to the locker room, and to the fan base. That message? Merit doesn't matter. Performance doesn't matter. The best players won't play unless they fit the plan. Unless they make the coach look good. Unless they were the original pick. That kind of culture kills teams from the inside. You think the rest of the locker room isn't watching this unfold in real time? You think veterans like Myles Garrett don't see what's happening? When your defense is doing everything it can to keep the team in games, and the coaching staff still refuses to make the most obvious change on offense, that creates tension. Quiet, unspoken, but very real tension. And you don't fix that with another team meeting. You fix it with action. That's what makes this so frustrating. The fix is right there. Sanders is on the roster. He's healthy. He's already shown signs of being NFL ready. But he's still stuck on the bench because giving him a shot would mean admitting the plan failed. That's what this comes down to, Stefanski and the front office refusing to admit they backed the wrong horse, even as the season spirals out of control. It's not about winning anymore. It's about ego. And that's the most dangerous place a franchise can be. The Browns have a long, painful history of getting the quarterback position wrong. They've spent the better part of 2 decades in a revolving door of failed starters, overhyped prospects, and poor developmental strategies. And now, when they finally have a player with legitimate upside, when the locker room is begging for a spark, they're actively suppressing him. You can't make that make sense. Because it doesn't. This is no longer just a personnel decision. It's a leadership crisis. A team-wide trust issue. And every week that Sanders stays benched, that trust erodes further. And let's not forget the fans. Browns fans have stuck with this team through some of the worst stretches in modern football. They've been patient. They've been loyal. They've endured quarterback chaos, front office turnover, and heartbreak on repeat. What they're watching now is another rerun, but with the added insult of seeing the solution standing on the sideline holding a clipboard. They're not just disappointed. They're insulted. Because the excuses aren't fooling anyone anymore. He's not ready. It's a minor back issue. We're managing his reps. Please? This fanbase has heard every excuse in the book. What they haven't seen is someone do the right thing when it's needed most. Brady's comments blew this situation wide open, but the cracks were already there. The frustration. The sideline tension. The awkward post-game interviews. The locker room leaders tiptoeing around the truth because saying it out loud would mean throwing the coaching staff under the bus. Well, Brady said it for them. And now there's nowhere left to hide. This next stretch of games isn't just about wins and losses. It's about identity. If the Browns continue to roll out a quarterback who can't move the offense, while Sanders stays benched, they're telling the world exactly what kind of franchise they are. One that fears accountability more than it fears losing. And at some point that choice becomes permanent. If Sanders doesn't get reps this season, he loses a full year of NFL development. That matters. That time matters. And once it's gone, you don't get it back. The Browns are playing with fire, gambling that their locker room won't implode before they're ready to change course. But by then it may be too late. Because this isn't just about keeping Sanders on the bench. It's about keeping the team together. A divided locker room doesn't win games. It barely survives the season. So here's the reality Stefanski and the front office have to face. They can protect their egos or they can protect their future. But they can't do both. If they don't make the switch soon, if they don't give Shedeur Sanders the opportunity he's already earned, they're going to lose everything. The locker room, the fanbase, the season, and possibly the quarterback they'll spend the next 5 years trying to replace. Let him play. Let him make mistakes. Let him learn. Let him lead. Or watch it all come crashing down, again. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are the Browns making the biggest mistake of the season right now? Did Brady finally say what needed to be said? Is there any way this team salvages the locker room if Sanders doesn't get on the field soon? Like if you're done with coaching spin. Share this if you're watching Cleveland implode in real time. And subscribe if you want the raw truth behind the headlines, because this story, it's only getting louder. Because the uncomfortable truth the Browns are dancing around? The thing they don't want to admit publicly, but everyone can see happening in slow motion, is that they're losing control of this team. And it all started the moment they decided to play defense against their own offense. Kevin Stefanski's refusal to start Shedeur Sanders isn't just a bad call, it's a declaration. It tells every player in that locker room that decisions are being made based on politics, not performance. That merit takes a backseat to saving face. That even if you do everything right, grind through the offseason, show up in practice, prove your physical readiness, you can still be left on the bench if the front office is too proud to admit they picked the wrong guy. And that's how you fracture a team. Let's not forget what this league runs on: trust. Between coaches and players. Between front offices and locker rooms. And once that trust starts to erode, you can't just fix it with one rah-rah speech or some vague presser about internal evaluations. Players stop buying in. They stop believing that the coaching staff actually wants to win. And they start playing for themselves. That's how locker rooms collapse. And guess what? The cracks are already visible. We've seen the camera shots. The quiet sideline blow-ups. The clipped responses in post-game interviews. Guys like Myles Garrett, who have given this franchise everything, standing on the sideline with that expression that says it all. What are we doing here? Because it's not just about losing games. It's about wasting games, week after week, on a quarterback who clearly isn't elevating the offense while a more talented player watches from the sideline. Shedeur Sanders has all the tools. This isn't some media hype job. This isn't desperation. This is a player with real NFL-level arm talent, a high football IQ, and composure in high-pressure situations. He's not just throwing in warm-ups, he's throwing dots. He's out there slinging passes in pregame while the organization keeps pretending he's nursing an injury. But if you're really injured, you're not launching 40-yard ropes before kickoff. You're not doing full-motion throwing drills on the sideline. You're sitting, recovering, rehabbing, not performing like you're auditioning for Sunday Night Football. The injury excuse isn't just thin, it's insulting. And Brady? He saw right through it. That's why he didn't hold back. He knows better than anyone how critical reps are for a young quarterback. That development doesn't happen in the film room, it happens on the field. Against live defenses. With pressure. With mistakes. And then with growth. Brady lived it. He was that untested backup who got thrown into the fire and came out a champion. So when he sees a coaching staff refusing to let a promising QB take those first steps, he knows exactly what it means. They're scared. Not for the player, for themselves. Because if Sanders steps in and starts cooking, that's a problem for everyone who stood in his way. That's a spotlight on the decision makers. On the GM. On Stefanski. On the whole system that insisted Sanders wasn't ready. And if he balls out, then what? Then the entire offseason strategy gets called into question. Then the media starts asking why it took a Brady-level intervention for the Browns to finally do what they should have done weeks ago. Then accountability comes knocking, and nobody in Cleveland's front office wants to answer that door. So instead they're gambling. They're hoping the media cycle moves on. That another controversy somewhere else grabs the headlines. That fans get tired of asking where Shedeur is. That the defense keeps bailing them out long enough for their starter to look just okay and buy them more time. But here's the problem. NFL seasons don't wait. They're short. Every game matters. And the Browns are throwing theirs away because they're terrified of what Shedeur might prove. You don't think Sanders knows that? You don't think he sees through all of this? The cryptic press conferences. The vague updates. The endless excuses. The front office trying to make it look like he's being protected, when really he's being suppressed? He knows. And he's not hiding his frustration. Liking Instagram posts calling for his start? That's not an accident. That's not just scrolling with his thumb. That's a message. A public one. A very clear one. And it's not just fans reading into it, his teammates are watching too. And what they're seeing is a player who should be leading them, being treated like a liability instead of an asset. That is not how winning teams operate. The most successful franchises in this league all have one thing in common. They adapt. They aren't afraid to make changes, even drastic ones, if it means improving the team. They bench underperforming veterans. They lean into youth when it shows promise. They trust what they see on the field over what's written on some depth chart from July. But the Browns? They're choosing fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of the headlines. Fear of change. And that fear is what will cost them this season. There's still a path forward, but it gets narrower every week. At some point, Sanders has to take that field. Not in garbage time. Not when the team is 2-7 and the season's already dead. But now, when it still matters. When he can still change the outcome, not just of games but of the whole trajectory of this franchise. You don't wait to deploy talent until it's too late. You use it to prevent the collapse in the first place. But if Cleveland keeps dragging its feet? If they wait too long? If they keep spinning the injury line until fans finally check out? Then Sanders won't just be the story of a wasted season. He'll be the symbol of another failed era in Cleveland. A name added to the long list of quarterbacks the Browns had, but didn't use. And you know how this league works. There are 31 other teams out there. Some of them are watching. Some of them are struggling with their own QB issues. And if Sanders ever becomes available, whether by trade, release, or sheer frustration, you don't think they'll line up? You don't think they've seen the same warm-up footage? The same pre-draft tape? The same ridiculous skill set being buried under excuses? They've seen it. And they're waiting. So while the Browns play games with a player who could turn their offense around, other teams are already imagining what he could do for them. That's how quickly you lose a future in this league. And once it's gone, there are no do-overs. This isn't a developmental year. This is a now or never moment. And Brady's comments weren't just a call-out. They were a challenge. Not to Sanders. To the people making the decisions in Cleveland. Do you want to win? Or do you want to be right? You don't get both. It's no longer just about one player being benched. It's about why he's being benched and who is making that decision. When the camera cuts to Stefanski on the sideline, arms crossed, headset on, watching another 3-and-out, the tension is almost unbearable. You know he feels it. The stadium feels it. The locker room definitely feels it. And now the fans? They're done being quiet. The murmurs have turned into boos. The comment sections are a war zone. Brown's Twitter is lighting up like it's draft night, but instead of hype, it's just pure frustration. You cannot sell the idea that you're building a winning culture when the most obvious fix is sitting in plain sight and still not being used. This isn't about throwing a rookie into the fire recklessly. It's about refusing to even try when everything else has already failed. There's nothing brave or strategic about clinging to a plan that clearly isn't working. It's stubbornness. and it's hurting the team. And that's what Brady called out. Not just a bad coaching decision, but a broken system that prioritizes saving face over winning football games. You could practically hear the subtext in Brady's voice. What are you doing, Cleveland? You have a guy who can sling it. You have someone who thrives in the pocket under pressure. And instead of letting him lead, you're actively slowing him down? Brady knows how these opportunities work. They're fragile. They vanish fast. You either seize the moment or spend the next 5 years wondering what could have been. Let's be real. If this same scenario was playing out in New England or Kansas City, it wouldn't have lasted this long. Those franchises don't wait to make the necessary move. They do what's best for the team, even if it means benching a veteran or admitting a mistake. But Cleveland? They're still in denial. They're treating every loss like a fluke, every underwhelming start like a growing pain, and every sign of locker room unrest like media noise. It's not noise. It's the warning sirens. This isn't a fan base that needs to be educated. It's a fan base that's been through everything. They've seen draft busts, bad trades, coach after coach come and go, and somehow just when it looks like there's a chance to break the cycle, they do this. They sit the future to protect the past. What's wild is that you can see why they're doing it. It's not even subtle. Stefanski doesn't want to admit the QB situation is broken. The front office doesn't want to say they misread the room. And so the easiest thing to do? Say Sanders needs time, slap the back tightness tag on him and hope the heat cools off. But it won't. Because now it's national. Now you've got Brady dragging this into the spotlight. When he goes public, the media follows. Now you've got talking heads dissecting every Stefanski press conference like it's a true crime documentary. The quotes are being clipped, analyzed, and memed. Stefanski's "he's just not ready" line? It's already aged like milk. And look, coaches are allowed to protect young players. But this isn't that. Sanders wants to play. He's not shrinking from the moment. He's out there proving in every warm-up that he's physically ready. Mentally? He's been preparing for this level his whole life. He's not just his father's son. He's his own QB and one that came into this league with expectations. He's not running from pressure, he thrives in it. The fact that he hasn't spoken out publicly is more of a testament to his professionalism than anything. Because behind the scenes, you know he's frustrated. You know he's wondering why he's being treated like a liability when he could be the solution. And that dynamic, where your most talented young player is being iced out to protect the feelings of a coaching staff, that's how locker rooms fracture. That's how you start losing games before they're even played. Because culture matters. And right now, the message is crystal clear. Talent doesn't guarantee opportunity here. Ego decides everything. Think about how that plays in the heads of other young guys on the roster. If you're a rookie or a second-year player trying to break out, what does this tell you? That even if you show up and do the work, it still might not matter if the head coach doesn't like the optics? That's poison. And you can feel it in the body language. You can see it in how frustrated the defense looks. They're doing everything they can to keep this team in games, and the offense keeps giving it right back. It's not just disheartening, it's demoralizing. They're fighting for a playoff spot. And meanwhile, management is treating the QB room like it's a reality show. Keeping secrets, managing egos, protecting pride. This is where leadership either steps up or falls apart. If Stefanski doesn't reverse course soon, he's not just risking a bad season. He's risking his job. Because the heat isn't just coming from the fans anymore. It's coming from inside the building. And when your players lose faith in your judgment, it's over. The Browns don't need a miracle. They don't need a big trade. They need accountability. They need someone in leadership to say, "We got this wrong," and then course correct. That's not weakness. That's what good franchises do. Let the kid play. Let him throw. Let him screw up. Let him grow. Because the worst thing you can do to a talented quarterback is stall his development because of politics. The Browns have done this dance before. And every time it ends the same way: wasted potential, front office turnover, and another reset year that fans didn't ask for. This is your chance to break that cycle. This is your chance to put football first, not feelings. If they finally put Shedeur Sanders on the field and he performs, great. The locker room breathes again. The fans rally. The offense opens up. You give the team something to believe in. And if he struggles, so what? That's how it works. That's what development looks like. You don't learn how to win in the NFL by watching from the bench. You learn by facing the challenge. Tom Brady knows that. He lived it. Which is why his criticism cuts so deep. Because when Brady calls out your coaching philosophy, it's not just opinion, it's experience talking. So what's left? Either the Browns listen and act, Or they keep spinning, keep losing, and keep wondering why they're stuck in the same place again? Let us know what you think. Should Sanders be starting now? Is this coaching malpractice or just a slow burn plan that's gone off the rails? Drop your take in the comments. Like if you're tired of excuses, share this with someone who still thinks the Browns are just being cautious. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more breakdowns of the biggest NFL disasters, controversies, and meltdowns. Because this saga, it's far from over.